Thank you guys so much for being here. Good evening. Thank you for spending your chilly evening with us here tonight. We are going to be discussing and talking about just kind of laying the land for a proposed development that's going to be occurring and happening right here next to Stratford Richardson YMCA. So tonight's really about laying the foundation, talking about really the initial goals of this proposed development, three main topics that we would really like to hear from you all on, which we'll get to in just a moment with some of our county as well as the YMCA folks who are just going to talk us through a few of those topics. And then in your seats, you should have a number of materials. I know we've loaded you up with a lot of paper, but we've got some information on the departments and services that the Mecklenburg County offers. We've also got two comment cards. We've got plenty of extra comment cards if you need additional, but that's where we'd really love to hear what you think about this proposed development, what you think about the meeting, anything that you'd like to see here tonight and see here within the development as well. We've also got some paper surveys that are in your chair, and then that's also hosted online. So I'll kind of recap all of this again at the close of the meeting, but just wanted to kind of walk through all the materials that you have in front of you. And to kick us off, we have Rhonda Anderson, who's with the YMCA, and she's going to kind of lay the land for us of why Stratford Richardson and why this proposed development here. So join me in welcoming Rhonda.
Good evening, everyone. It's wonderful to see everyone this evening. I think we're okay with the lights down, and there's some snacks here to my left, so if you want to have something to munch on, please help yourselves. I have the honor and privilege of serving as a Chief Operating Officer of the YMCA of Greater Charlotte. I'm relatively new to the city, been here for about a year and a half, and certainly delighted to have you here with us this evening. I understand there may be some of our elected officials that are here, so if you are an elected official, would you please stand so that you can be acknowledged and thanked if there's anyone here as elected official? Thank you. Thank you very much for coming out. And how many of you, is this your first time in Stratford Richardson? Is there anyone here, this is your first time here? Okay, wonderful. Well, we hope that you come back to really take a tour and to see what this wonderful facility here has to offer to the community. And this branch is one of 19 in the YMCA of Greater Charlotte. We serve well over 300,000 individuals in our community, from an infant all the way up until what we call our active older adults. And the Charlotte YMCA has been part of the fabric of this community for 140 years. We have been here as a hub, a transformational hub, a center of activity, a connecting place for so many in our community. And we are grateful for the many thousands of people that walk through the doors of this YMCA, as well as the Ys throughout the footprint of Charlotte. We also have been in existence for 140 years, and we look forward to what's going to happen in the future, and that's why we're here this evening. Some demographics about this particular branch. We serve well over 1,700 families in this community in West Boulevard. And when the Stratford Richardson Y was started, the goal was to provide a safe place, a place where people on the West Boulevard could come and feel welcome, to feel like they were part of a greater community, have a sense of health and well-being, and to connect with their neighbors. And so our goal, again, is to continue along that path. And we're grateful for the legacy that was left here by those who 10 years ago felt it important to have a YMCA in this community. And two of those people are named after this YMCA: Willie J. Stratford, who was a civil rights activist and community organizer and politician, as well as Jim Richardson, who served on the city council, who was also a state senator. It was their vision to see this YMCA transform into the beacon of light that it is here now in this community. So if we go on to some additional stats, we'll see that 65% of the members of this YMCA, this particular branch, have incomes of less than $20,000. And what that means is that we are here for the entire community, regardless of your ability to pay, your race, your age, or your income. And you can see that also we're pretty diverse when it comes to age. There's a wonderful breakdown that you can see here on the screen in terms of the differences that we have in ages. And I actually love walking to this building. You walk in, you can look to your left in the pool. There are active older adults who are taking place in a water aerobics class, or we have our teens who may be there doing homework. And you look on the field, we have our school-aged children who are participating in soccer or flag football. So it is really, truly a place for all. And so when the county approached us about the possibility of further transforming this campus to something even greater than what we have, we certainly were very interested in having conversation, having discussion with the county, and also, most importantly, what we're here to do tonight is to have conversation with the community to find out what your thoughts are about the things that are needed to help this community to further grow and thrive. So as a result of that, we began conversation probably back in February, and it leads us here today to have conversation about what Stratford Richardson will look like for the next generation. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Dennis Lucaria from the county, who will come up and provide additional information on what we potentially are envisioning here, and he will give you further instruction on how we'll proceed this evening and further meetings. So Dennis?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Everybody hear me? Great, thanks. All right, well, thank you all for coming out. I'm gratified by the turnout. You never know when you throw a party whether anybody's going to attend, and this one's pretty well attended, so I appreciate that. Among my responsibilities in Mecklenburg County is oversight for the capital planning and real estate strategy for what we're calling Bringing Mecklenburg County to You. And the larger focus of that effort is to create some geographically dispersed centers where all of the county services can be accessed by customers in a single location. Today, if anybody's familiar with the way we operate, if you need DSS, you have to go to one place. If you need veteran services, you get to go to Hal Marshall, the old Sears building up on North Tryon. If you need child support enforcement, it's the third location, and good luck trying to do that all in one day on a bus. So we have been working very hard. We stood the first community resource center up at Valerie C. Woodard on Freedom Drive, the center there, as sort of a test pilot for this broader effort. And it's been a resounding success, but the plans call for us to create other sites throughout the community. We've acquired the site that is labeled Northeast. Pointer's not working great. At North Tryon and Eastway, the former North Park Mall. And so that will be a site that we'll be in planning on and doing community engagement and outreach there as well. But the West Boulevard site, which we're talking about tonight, is kind of a prime mover, and we have a real opportunity based on having a top-tier partner in the Y that we don't necessarily have at all of the locations. So why here? And the first thing is the West Boulevard corridor is an important corridor for a lot of reasons. And the other thing is, when I start looking at sites for locating a community resource center, the first thing I do is rule out existing residential, because it doesn't do us any good for me to say, I'm from the government, I'm here to help you, and now you need to move. So we look for sites that are either commercial in nature or are green. And this site is definitely green. And it offers a great opportunity, being midway between Uptown and the airport and along this vital corridor. The assemblage that we're targeting basically includes not only the Stratford Richardson Y, but some adjacent property, some stuff that Brookstone Schools owns. We're in conversation with Trotter companies about some land that they've got. A unique opportunity presents here as well, in that if you'll see on the left image today, Donald Ross Road, which runs along the golf course and connects to Wilkinson, will ultimately go away. The state, the local Department of Transportation, and the railroad are working on a plan to close all of the at-grade crossings along Wilkinson to make the high-speed rail corridor work. So ultimately, that road would be realigned and connected to Ashley. So that road would then come across this site. So we have an opportunity also to kind of create a site for that future connection and set it up so that it would behave well if and when that connection's ever made. And as I said, again, it's green. We're not going to displace any individuals, families by locating here, and we have a good cornerstone in the Stratford Richardson Y to build off of. And so the things that the county and the Y have to accomplish if we're successful here is the community resource center that we've planned for this site. But a county office building on its own certainly doesn't change lives simply by its existence. An enhanced YMCA and also a relocated West Boulevard Library would also be part of the have-tos that we need to accomplish on this program. Those of you that are familiar with the West Boulevard Library, it's small, it's too small, and it's underparked. And we've had a small project on the boards for a long time to make the small library a little less small, but still not the right size, and take away some of the valuable parking in order to accomplish that. So rather than that, we have an opportunity to create something from the ground up that actually would serve the community much better. So those are the things we have to accomplish. The things that we want to accomplish in order to create a community here is a residential component, some sort of commercial component, whether that's office, retail, both, and then some enhanced and additional community spaces that can transform this particular site and serve as a connection to other sites throughout the county. And so we've talked about there's landing relative to having a place to take off from. So there are a whole lot of dimensions to the Prospect Landing name, and so giving the project a working title of Prospect Landing is what we landed on. Get feedback. Get feedback. feedback, get 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 feedback from everybody on every aspect of this, and trying to replicate this as we go forward throughout the community at each of the other sites that we'll be building. But what you see here is a mix, right, of housing types. It doesn't all have to be what's called the Texas Donut, the little 4-story apartment building with the hollow center, that sort of thing. You know, there's an opportunity for townhomes, other sorts of things on the site. Good open space, places for people to gather, things that can be an anchor, art spaces. And then you start thinking about logically grouping the site and how things could potentially lay out, where you've got kind of a commercial corner and then some residential of different types, more inland and isolated. This is kind of an idea of what the massing could kind of feel like. Nobody's proposing or thinking about anything like a 20-story building over here. It doesn't want it to be out of character, but it gives you an idea of how the site could potentially lay out. You know, 3, 4, 5-story buildings, 2-story townhomes, things of that nature, and how it could feel on the street if something like this were to develop. Kind of a commercial view, maybe some apartments. Again, a kind of brownstone sort of setup. And again, all of that goes into making this a community, a neighborhood, vibrant, thriving, where opportunity exists, and it's anchored by the CRC, the YMCA, and the library, and is brought to life by the folks that would live, work, and play here. And so we've got topics that we're going to do a deeper dive on a little bit tonight with some other speakers, and broadly economic opportunity and how this proposed development could support that in this neighborhood and in the community more largely. A lot of people, when they think about economic opportunity when it's tied to a county project, they think about construction contracts and things like that. But we're talking about, you know, is there an opportunity to have some sort of creative co-working space, or some small stall retail where somebody who is looking at starting their own business or selling their goods locally but can't afford a 1,000 square foot space somewhere else to be able to set up shop, those sorts of things. So how can we enhance entrepreneurialism opportunities? How can we bring other jobs to this neighborhood? Mixed income housing. Now obviously our greatest need in this community is 30% and below of AMI. I mean, in Mecklenburg County more broadly. So we definitely need to address below market housing, 80, 60, 30%. But having a mix of product types and a mix of incomes creates a neighborhood and a place for folks to move within a neighborhood without having to go somewhere else to get a different product. And community building and wellness, with the Y as a partner, Mecklenburg County Park and Recreation, and the things that we do around that, it only seems natural that needs to be something that's deeply embedded in the project as it develops. And so with that, we will turn it over to the first speakers from the Mecklenburg County Office of Economic Development, Mark Stewart and Jamelia Davis.
Thank you, Dennis. Sorry for the squeals. When you think of economic development or economic development, what do you think of? Exactly. But it's a little bit more. And that's what we're going to dig into a little bit. In the Office of Economic Development for Mecklenburg County, now let's lay some groundwork. You have the City Economic Development Office, Mecklenburg County Economic Development Office, the Chamber of Commerce, regional partnerships, and we're all involved with basically kind of the same thing of bringing businesses to the forefront, assisting them to create jobs and create opportunities for the community. Now, Mecklenburg County, we take a different little approach. We help the entrepreneur, the smaller businesses, but we also have programming with businesses industry that assists with developing business incentive programs, or the BIPs, the tax breaks, the investors and things of that nature. My position with Mecklenburg County is I assist the entrepreneur, the smaller businesses, smaller manufacturers, those who are interested in starting businesses. So one of the things we're trying to do in this community is to bring resources to your community. For example, you're thinking about starting a business. You want to understand what resources are available in the state of North Carolina. You want to understand what resources are available nationally, whether it's from a funding with the SBA, local funding, state funding, or private investors. So you need to understand what those resources are. You search me out, and I assist you with mapping and developing strategies so that you can get your business funded and operating. Next thing we do, we look at credit coaching, funding and development. Now, when I put development in there are several strategies to development, that being business plan developing, strategic planning developing a marketing plan, because you got to get your customers, developing strategies on how to navigate different resources, where to get the resources, when to bring them into your business, and so forth. Next is reentry. Those who are coming out of prison. And when I work with inmates, they have a lot of tools and resources that they're not even aware of. For example, someone who's been incarcerated for a number of years, they come out with a clean credit history. They have no credit. So building that history and getting funding is actually an easier process than someone who's been out, who has credit but destroyed it. It's a longer process. But someone who's coming out of prison, they have more tools and resources than they think they have. But a lot of times they just aren't aware of what those resources are and how to use them. So my goal is to teach them about those resources, how to build a business plan, where to go to build that business plan, and to strategize their future. So next thing is looking at the possibility of an entrepreneurship academy, working with high school juniors and seniors. I taught my son at 15 years old because he kept asking for money. I'm like, okay, you come up with a plan, and your goal is to make $25 a day. That's all he had to do. And you have to use a residual product in developing this plan. So that means when someone buys from you, you have to learn how to get that customer to come back to you. So he came up with a plan to sell bike inner tubes. And he made roughly $175 a day selling bike inner tubes on eBay. So there are strategies in how you can develop these things. Next thing is workforce development. And you guys all mentioned, a lot of you mentioned job creation, opportunity. Workforce development means preparing someone for employment, assisting those who are in employment, working with those who need further training to keep employment, for example, through community college partnerships. I would say a little bit of re-entry as well, because you're doing workforce development in that process as well. Welfare to work programs, community engagement programs to assist with resume writing, how to interview, techniques on how to apply for jobs online, because it's a definitely different strategy. And who is this small business? Entrepreneurs in business. Now, in Mecklenburg County, we created a program called the Business Concierge Program. This Business Concierge Program is designed to literally help you to navigate those resources, to understand what they are, what they do, what they provide throughout the state. And I'll tell you, I've been advising businesses for over 30 years. I ran the state of Rhode Island, worked in Delaware, worked in Pennsylvania. North Carolina has more business resources of any state that I've ever been in. But those resources are very complex to understand where to go, where to get them, and how to understand what to do with those. So as a business concierge, I help you to understand those things. Developing an entrepreneurship academy, working with students, working with communities, working with different entrepreneurs in partnership with CPCC, the Women Business Center, and things of that nature, helps you to understand some of those resources, some of the groundwork you need to start businesses or even to further your business as well. This here, I'm going to bring up my partner here, and she's my coworker, Jamila Davis.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Can I get a show of hands of who currently is a small business owner? Can I get a show of hands of individuals who have small business owners in their family, or if they have friends that are small business owners? Okay, good. So you just heard Mark talk about business startup, business development, workforce development. So for all of you, who've raised your hands that are a business owner, how many have done business with Mecklenburg County? Okay. We want to increase those hands. So what my department does is we help individuals get registered to do business with the government, specifically with Mecklenburg County, but we also help you get registered with the city of Charlotte, with the state, and with the federal government. Also, for those who raised your hands who are a small business owner, who's certified as an MBE or a WBE or a SBE? Okay, not many hands. These organizations provide opportunity for your businesses. Being a minority, a woman, or a small business, you are historically underutilized or socially, economically disadvantaged. So we want to make sure that you are provided with opportunity in the contracting landscape. My department offers workshops. We do outreach and engagement events and activities. We help you navigate through these processes and these resources, and we are a support system. We want to help you start up. We want to help you grow and expand your business to be to help with upward mobility in the community, for your children, for your future generations, but currently also for the economy, for your community. What we're doing here tonight is giving you this information and these resources, and we hope that you also take advantage of those. But on your paper there, just wanted to mention anything that we're saying here tonight. If you have any feedback, please give that feedback. Where are we here? These are some of the products and services that those are contract opportunities with the county. Things to think about. Things to think about. What would you like to see in this development for each of the following topic areas? Workforce, youth development, entrepreneurial and retail and shopping, financial management, vocational incarceration, reentry, and other. You have, again, you have comment cards in front of you. Throughout the rest of this presentation, please take a moment and jot down anything that you think is relevant for this proposed development. And if you have any questions, Mark and I will be back here in the corner. Please do not hesitate to come speak with us. I do have some of these MWSBE handouts here on the table, so feel free to grab one, keep for yourself, or pass to someone that you know is a small business owner. Thank you. And here's our contact information.
Awesome. So here's Mark and Jamilia's contact information as well. And to Jamilia's point, so after each of these presentations, these kind of topical presentations, we will have some what we're calling things to think about, some questions that we're posing to you all. And again, to Jamilia's point, we'd love to see you write down any thoughts right now on your comment card. These are also going to be captured in the surveys as well. So again, you have paper surveys in front of you, but there are also, the survey is also hosted online. So if you want to go back, digest some of these questions, think about them, and give us your feedback that way as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ashley Clark, who is with the UNC Charlotte Urban Institute, and she's going to talk to us regarding mixed income housing. Excuse me.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you. So I am Ashley Williams Clark, UNC Charlotte Urban Institute. We are an applied research center here in Charlotte. We've been here for almost 50 years, but we do a lot of work around housing, economic development, land use planning, education, nonprofit support, a variety of things. And for over the past 4 years or so, we've had a partnership with Mecklenburg County where we've done a report series focusing in on housing instability and homelessness. And so they asked me to come today to talk to you a little bit about some of the data from the reports that we found that can help shape your conversation as you think about mixed use or mixed income housing. So one of the things we like to talk about a lot is housing as a continuum. A lot of times people will think of someone is homeless, somebody is unstably housed. We like to reframe that conversation and make note that it is a situation that can change. Someone is not defined by their housing situation. So when we talk about housing, a lot of times we talk about it as a continuum. Someone can move along that continuum from being unstably housed to experiencing homelessness to being in a stable housing situation. But it's a situation, and so it can change. And so for the conversation today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how housing instability and housing insecurity can present itself. But also, as you think through this mixed income housing is a tool that you would see down here for creating stable housing options in communities. And let me not fall. All right. So what is mixed income housing, just so we have a common understanding of what it is? Generally speaking, mixed income housing is going to be housing, it's going to be diverse types of housing. So if you remember what Dennis showed earlier, slides with different types of housing types, and usually they're available at different affordability points. They're different price points, which means that they can appeal and be available to people at a range of incomes. What that exact range is and how many units, that's up for discussion. But generally, mixed income housing is going to have a mix of income types and a mix of unit types as well. So how do things look in Charlotte? One of the things that we talk about very commonly is that incomes have increased at a rate very different from rents. And I know it's a little hard to see, and I'm tall, but not tall enough. That line up there, that's showing the change in median gross rent comparable to 2005. So since 2005, median gross rent has increased by almost 16%. Comparatively, since 2005, median gross income has increased only 2%. That creates a pretty challenging situation for a lot of households, right? And this is adjusted for inflation. So the result is that you have a large number of cost-burdened renter households. And what does that mean? So a household's considered cost burden if they're spending more than 30% of their income on housing expenses. And I always like to couch that in, that's your pre-tax income. That's like when you're like, oh, I'm gonna get all this amount, but not what your actual check looks like. So this is 30% of your pre-tax income. So along the West Boulevard, this area, 57% of households are cost burden, spending more than 30% of their income on housing. That's higher than Mecklenburg County, which is at about 45%. And how does this present itself? So evictions are one of the ways that housing instability presents itself. So an eviction is when a landlord attempts to remove a tenant from their property when they don't want to leave. And so we looked at data from the sheriff's office for when the sheriff goes to deliver a notice to a tenant that their landlord's attempting to evict them. And what we found was that in 2015, which was the most recent data we could get, there were over 824 households in this community that were at risk of losing their housing due to an eviction. And when we look at that geographically, this is mapping it out. This area surrounded in yellow is what the county is considering the neighborhood boundary for West Boulevard. And you can see how that presents itself. And if you know where you live on this map, you can kind of see where it might fall. So why does this happen? What's some of the contributing factors? You heard me talk about changes in income, and you heard me talk about changes in rent. Well, one thing that hasn't really changed is minimum wage. Minimum wage is $7.25. There's a great study by the National Low-Income Housing Coalition that actually looks at looking at minimum wage, how much would somebody have to earn? How many hours would someone have to work to afford a unit at fair market rent? Or if a household earns minimum wage, how much housing could they afford and not be spending more than 30% of their income on housing? And so in Mecklenburg County, a household that is earning minimum wage and working 40 hours per week could afford a rent of $377. All right? Remember that number. The other number I also like to share is that if a household were to try to afford a bedroom at fair market rent, and so I phrase it a lot, think of a single parent with a child who's looking for a 2-bedroom unit, and that parent works a minimum wage job, they would have to work 103 hours per week in order to not be spending more than 30% of their income on housing. So a lot of times that creates a very challenging situation for families. Renovation, 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 to 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 renovation, 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 renovations, you see something similar. This right here is Wilmore. Everyone knows what's going on in Wilmore. Yeah, so this is Wilmore. And you can see from Wilmore kind of extending, you're seeing more and more residential renovations. When you look at how it compares to the county, you can see that there are a higher share of residential renovations happening in this community compared to the rest of the county. And it's interesting, if I were to isolate this to Wilmore, you would see this go pew and then level off a little bit. But what this shows is that there is a lot of activity happening along this corridor when it comes to housing. There's also a lot of challenges around having access to affordable housing. So things to think about as you continue this conversation about this potential project, think about what types of housing make up a healthy community. What types of housing would you like to see in your community? What are things in that housing that would be important for your community to have? And when you think specifically about this potential development, what are some of the key components of this development that would help to achieve that vision you have for the types of housing you would like to see? What types of residences would you incorporate? And then lastly, I think what's always important is you all as community residents have the experience of living in this community. What are things that the county might not know about or might not be thinking about related to housing needs in this community that would be really relevant and important for them to know as they embark on this conversation? And so with that, I will hand it back over to Amanda for the next presentation.
All right, great. At this time, we'll now transition into community building and wellness, and we will start with Lakeisha Brown, who works with Mecklenburg County.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm the wellness coordinator from Mecklenburg County, and tonight I will be talking with you all about Mecklenburg County from a community wellness perspective. So first I want to define what is wellness. What does it mean and how does it impact you? So first of all, wellness is a process. It's a process of becoming aware of all of the factors that impact your health and making healthy choices to live a healthy and fulfilling life, okay? But for many of us, when we think about health and wellness, our minds probably go to more of the physical aspect. You know, the eating healthy, the exercising, weight management, and maybe the presence or absence of a chronic illness. Now, while those factors are very important, we want to stretch that thinking to include other dimensions of wellness, like social and intellectual health, financial wellness, emotional and mental health, as well as occupational and environmental health as well, okay? Now, what we know and understand today is that where you live, where you work, where you play, these all have a huge impact on the quality of life that you can experience in your life expectancy. So Mecklenburg County has several departments like Park and Recreation, the Public Health Department, and Land Use and Environmental Services agencies that are working and collaborating to develop healthy communities. And the goal is to have a healthy community design that increases physical activity. So this is where you see bike trails, sidewalks, greenways, and parks. They're designated to help you reach your destination safely using a bike or walking. Also looking at increasing access to healthy foods. So we're examining where those food deserts exist, and we're looking at how we can implement community gardens. And we're looking at farmers markets, okay? And also, another goal is just to create a health and safe natural environment. So we're looking at improving the quality of air, water, and soil. So Mecklenburg County in general, those are just a a few examples of how they're working and collaborating with community organizations to improve the quality of life of where people live, work, play, worship, and learn within their borders. Because overall, the goal and the ultimate goal is to make sure that people have enough choices and enough available resources that are accessible, affordable, and available to them. So at this time, I am going to invite Sue Dissinger up to talk a little bit about the why, because this is one of our partners that we do partner with in the community.
Thank you. If we could turn up the lights, just because I'm going to talk with you guys in the bright lights, and I'm not going to go from a PowerPoint. Is there someone around that can turn the lights on? They do it. Okay, great. So I'm going to go ahead and hand out some handouts. So raise your hand if you are a member of the Y currently. Okay, excellent, excellent. So one of the things that I think that we definitely pride ourselves on is bringing community together and providing a place for those to be active in spirit, mind, and body. So when you guys are thinking about and hearing all the information that you're receiving today, and you're going to be asked to provide feedback at the end, one of the things we want to make sure that you're aware of is where's the space that we play in terms of healthy living and healthy living programs. We have worked for many years really building communities in the partners in the community. And as Lakeisha was talking about from the Mecklenburg County Health Department, as one of our partners, we're really trying hard not to overlap the work that others are doing, but complement the work that others are doing. So the space that here in this community that we really play in and do a good job in is really helping those to access programs and services that support their reduction in chronic disease, that increase their physical activity, that improve their education around nutrition. So when we talk about them identifying food deserts and access to foods, how can the Y come in and better support the education around how to select the right foods, how to cook those foods, how to do meal prep. And so those are some of the things that you'll see. So the handout that I just gave you guys, there's also times where you may not be aware of programs and services that we offer. That's the blessing and the curse of the YMCA. We offer a lot of things for a lot of people, and we do a lot of things really well, but we also have a problem in terms of making sure that you recognize what you have access to, and that's right at your fingertips. So as I talk through these programs, keep in mind, the other thing that we want to recognize is it's not always about offering those programs from this location. While we would love you all to be here and come and join us, being in community with us and go through these programs that support you, we also recognize it's important for us to get outside the walls of our Y. It's important for us to meet our community where they are at. So we want to do a better job of how do we take some of these programs and do those better in the community where the community is at and where they need those programs. An example of that, we have in 2019 launching a mobile unit that will support across the YMCA of Greater Charlotte that really focuses on wellness and education and teaching around nutrition and other health conditions that we can support. So when you think about the things that really are prevalent in our community, we think about cancer, we think about heart disease, we think about stroke. And so we have been really mindful, while we do really well with some programs and services, we've been really mindful to look at evidence-based programs. And when I say evidence-based, means they've been running for a while, they've been studied, they've been supported and proven to make a change in a person's health outcome. So hypertension is a very prevalent condition in the community that does feed heart disease. And it's simple. All the things that I talk about, these are things that can be controlled. They are behavior modifications that with the right support, the right education, removal of barriers, they're things that you can take control of. So it's important for us to make sure that we provide this community with a hypertension management program. So that's the first program on that list, Check Change Control. It's actually in partnership with the American Heart Association, and it's for those who really struggle to monitor their blood pressure. It's very simple, it's easy to access, but it's really about teaching those who haven't gotten their blood pressure under control. It teaches you how to do that and provides you the accountability and support to do that. The diabetes prevention program. Diabetes is it's one of those silent conditions that can really affect a person's health and mortality. It's unfortunately what they call the silent killer. And so we want to make sure that we're providing the community the resources to help a person make those behavior change. That is absolutely a condition that can be controlled and reversed from getting someone to cross over into becoming a diabetic. And even then, if and when that does happen, there's ways to manage that to better support and have an excellent lifestyle. Live Strong at the Y. This is one of our programs that has been running at all of our Ys for a long time, and it's really supports those who have been diagnosed with cancer from stage 1 to recovery. And most of our programs are really built around having that support group. They're running group-based programs, so you have a support of community members around you. Parkinson's at the Y, exercise-based program for those who have been diagnosed with Parkinson's. It really helps them to build that independence where they can move into one of our group exercise classes and be supported and still maintain that quality of life. Personal training, and then weight loss. A group-based weight loss program. Again, really focusing on helping a person to achieve the weight that they feel is appropriate for them to gain energy and life back. So the one thing that I wanted to focus on also is coming in 2019, we've been working really hard on building out our cooking curriculum. So we have a variety of branches that do have cooking kitchens, but we've also been building our base of mobile teaching kitchens. So this branch has access to mobile teaching kitchen where we can come out and provide those cooking classes. And the one thing that we're really focused on is family cooking classes. How do you get the kids more involved? How do you get the parents working with the kids together on picking the right foods, eating the right foods, cooking together, and just having that healthier lifestyle. So those are some of the services that and programs that we do offer widespread across our branches, but we definitely picked some that were more localized here that we felt really benefit and can benefit the community and the health of the community. So as you think about and you're asked to think about things that you might have gaps in or needs, and you see what I've talked about, we'd love to hear from you on things that we might be missing. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Victor, who's going to talk about things locally here.
So I'm here just to invite everyone to 5 a.m. boot camp class. So if you're going to be with me, please raise your hand. All right. So if you spend any time talking about the West Boulevard corridor, at some point, the word food desert is going to come up. So with that, in our after school and summer camp programs, we provide nutritious meals to our scholars. So our after school program, we provide dinner and snacks to make sure that kids are eating. We heard recently, our staff heard a little girl say, I'm glad I come to the Y because there's no food at my house. So the Y wants to step in and make sure that our kids are eating. In our summer camp, we provide snacks as well as lunch. To fight social isolation in our seniors, we don't call them seniors at the Y. We call them active older adults, all right? Mr. Joe, can you just raise your hand? All right, this is one of our active older adults. We have some others who are here. Can you raise your hand, our members? We can clap for them. But recently, I took one of their classes, and I thought it was going to be easy. I thought I was going to spend some time with them, but they are fit, all right? And they work hard. So we're glad that they're with us, but we make sure that they have a place where they can thrive as well in our seniors. We want to make sure, can we raise our hand again about Y members? Who's a Y member? All right. Everyone didn't raise their hand. All right. I want everybody to know that at the Y, we provide access for all, right? We open our doors up to everyone. We don't allow income to be a reason that you can't come to the Y. So most people don't know this, but the Y is based upon a sliding scale, right? So it's based upon your income, and we're able to bring your membership down. So we know the benefits of providing of physical activity. So we want to make sure that everyone in our community has access to our doors. All right, so that's definitely something that we offer here at the Stratford Richardson YMCA. All right. Another thing we do, we want to make sure that teenagers have access to the Y. So through our programs Level Up, where we open up our branch free of charge on the weekends, Friday and Saturday evenings from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. during the summer. And then during the school year, we open up our branch the second Saturday of each month. And with that, we've had 168 teenagers here with us, all right? Physical activity. Not only that, but we teach them about healthy eating, all right, as well as different life skills. So there's a lot going on at the Stratford Richardson YMCA. Sue talked to you about what goes on at the branch, but I get excited about what we do in the community. We believe about taking the Y to the people, all right? So with that, if there's a health fair, the Stratford Richardson YMCA is there. Block party, national night out that just happened recently, the Y was there. So we want to make sure that you know if you ever have an event, please invite the Y, right? Because this is your Y. We are a hub of activities, right, that we are bringing to the people, all right? So there are some things that we want to talk about, some things we want you to think about on the slideshow. So when you're writing it on your comment cards, we want you to think about, what does healthy living mean to you? Another question, what's most critical for you and your family's wellness? What are your biggest barriers to optimum health? And what concerns do you have? What other services do you think this community needs? All right? So please, the ladies at the doors in the blue shirts, they have experience passes. So if you are not a Y member, we want to open our doors to you and let you know that we are here for you. All right? And I'll turn it over to you. And 5 a.m. boot camp, we'll be in the lobby.
Thank you. All right, and real quick before we close, I'm going to hand it back over to Dennis just to tie us up for the evening. And
Thanks. Thanks to all of our presenters. I appreciate their time this evening, and I hope that y'all heard some things that will make you think. Thank you again, all of you, for coming out. Again, this is the first in a series. We have one meeting already scheduled on the boards following this, and we'll have more information about that. But understand that we're just starting this, and there will be lots of opportunities for feedback and input. We do want to hear from you. I want to make sure that everybody takes the time that they need to think through the project itself, the proposal that we have, and our approach. I also want feedback from you. You'll see on the survey around the process, whether you thought this meeting, the series of meetings, was valuable, because we're going to try and replicate this community engagement going forward in the other geographies, and so would like to know where we could improve. I'm certainly never the smartest person in any room. You know that, Mr. Leeper. And so I want to make sure that that we get the accurate feedback on everything. For everybody's information, because we wound up collapsing the two sessions, we are live streaming this, which doesn't matter to you because you're here, but it's also going to be posted on the county website so that you'll be able to review it. It'll be up tomorrow. So you can go back and watch, rewatch, listen to the presentations, hear what the speakers said, think about things. Survey is open. We have a paper survey. There's opportunities online. Reach out to us and think through what you want to see here and how we can do this really, really well, and join us at the next meeting. Thanks.
awesome. Thank you. Okay, real quick before we wrap up, just wanted to run through a few more housekeeping items. So again, if you don't fill out that paper survey tonight, there is a survey. The same survey is hosted online. The website is up here on the screen. So if you want to take that down. And again, if you do fill out the survey, the paper survey in front of you, as well as the comment card, if you will be sure to hand those to one of our folks who are standing on your way out so that we can collect all of that good information and feedback. We also have a computer station right up here to your left in the front of the room. So if you'd like to, hop online, we've got the survey set up there as well. So multiple opportunities for you guys to complete those. And then finally, we also have a website. Again, to Dennis's point, all of the live streaming will be hosted on this website. It's bit.ly/West Boulevard, BLVD. So that's the shortened link. You can also search Prospect Landing, Mecklenburg County to get there as well. But all of these resources will be hosted there. The presentation will be hosted there as well. If you have any questions, feel free to also reach out to redevelopment@mecklenburgcountync.gov. And before we break, if I can just have the presenters are going to hang around for a little bit if you want to talk to anybody in particular, ask any questions. If I can have Rhonda, Sue, and Victor, maybe in this back left corner. Ashley, if you want to come up here to the front. And then Mark and Jamelia, if you want to go over to the back right corner, my right. And Lakeisha, if you want to join the Y folks as well. And then Dennis, I know, is going to be floating around here, going to be towards the exit, saying thanks and welcoming any questions or input. Final thing, if you guys want to take a look at the site, we've actually got some large images of the site itself, some aerial photos, just to give you a visual of the space that we're talking about. So at this point, thank you guys so much, and I hope we'll see you back here Thursday, November 15th, right here. Thank you.